What I have in front of you is pretty crazy. This is the deck that just won YCS Niagara Falls. What's going on, you guys? Slim here to talk about why Danger, Gren, Maju, OTK, Endless Dangers get destroyed by Super Poly. Deck won YCS Niagara Falls. If you guys tuned in yesterday, I had my episode on why Luna Light Orcus won a YCS Ghent. There were back-to-back YCSs. For those of you that did not know, the one in Europe was won by Luna Light Orcus, and then ours in Niagara Falls was won by Gren Maju Deeza with a bunch of dangers and a bunch of crazy cards. Deck. It's pretty crazy when you think about it, because just a couple weeks ago at YCS Portland, a version of Gren Maju Deeza, the deck, ended up taking second place. It almost won. It lost out to Sky Strikers in the finals, if you guys remember. Pretty crazy. I did a video also covering that deck, and we have seen a lot of players have been trying to innovate the Gren Maju strategy, whether it be incorporating more dangers, doing anything they could to just make the Gren Maju like the win condition and whatnot. But David Mendoza, that's the name of the player who ended up winning this YCS, shout out to you, congratulations, did kind of like a different strategy. He really upped the danger count. He added cards that we haven't seen in the deck yet, added cards like Danger Response Team. He added Hey Trunade, all these other crazy things, had the draw engine, had the trade-in, stuff like that, just to turbo through the deck, and of course, incorporated Gizmek, which I think that card was solely made for Gren Maju, as crazy as it is. I think when that card was designed, it literally was just like made to be used with this deck, but it's pretty crazy. But for those of you that are new here, if you guys didn't catch yesterday's episode, this is the series where we go over the deck that won and talk about why it won. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it. But yeah, we'll get into it. Again, shout out to David Mendoza. This deck is absolutely insane. Like, just looking at it, it looks like so much fun to play. Gren Maju has been on the rise, you guys, and now it has a YCS win. Like, that's so crazy. But yeah, let's get into it. So for his monster count, he has 3 Danger Bigfoot, 2 copies of Danger Chupacabra, 2 copies of Nessie, 3 copies of Ogopogo, 3 copies of Tornado, 2 copies of Jackalope, and 2 copies of Snake, along with the 3 Phantasme. If you notice, this is the only hand trap. If you guys noticed, a pretty common trend from these 2 deck lists that won these last 2 YCSs is they only opted for very minimal hand traps in the form of David used Phantasme here, whereas if you noticed in the Luna Light deck, they weren't playing really anything. He just played Kaijus in the main deck and stuff like that. It was pretty crazy when you think about it, that hand traps were just not really something that needed to be played for these YCSs. Then he has, of course, the 3 copies of Gizmek and the 3 copies of Gren Maju Deeza. That's it for the monsters. For the spells, the 1 card destruction. I mean, you resolve this with dangers. I mean, the game's over. Like, it's so over. Like, it's like an auto win button. Like, if this card resolves and doesn't get ashed, it's like crazy. Like, you get so much advantage off the dangers. It's just nuts. And then you got the 2 copies of Danger Response Team. I think this is really cool that he played this. The last time we saw this was actually, I believe, at YCS Chicago in the going second pure danger deck. A lot of people forget about this, but it lets you target a danger monster. You control 1 monster on the field, return them to the hand, and then if this card is in your graveyard, you can discard a danger monster, place this card on the top or bottom of your deck, and then draw 1 card. So basically, you get so much value out of this card getting discarded when you reveal your dangers. If you do actually use its effect, you can bounce a danger and then reuse it, which is so nuts, since the dangers in hand effects are not once per turn, so it's crazy. And like I said, having the utility of if this gets discarded, you get something, you can just resolve it and then draw a card is like so ridiculous. So I think this card was amazing, and I love the fact that he put this in the main deck. 3 copies of Hey Trunade, another just like crazy thing. Like, I don't think we've seen this card in the main deck like ever. If I'm right, I haven't seen this like ever in a main deck. I've seen it in side decks before, but this lets you basically just return all the set spells and traps on the field and just OTK your opponent, and that's what this deck does. You're playing a trap deck, everything's gone. If you're playing Sky Strikers, everything's gone. Like, you just OTK that turn. So it's so crazy. It also baits out a lot of things too, so I think that's very cool that he main decked it. Reborn, of course, Triple Desires. I mean, just resolving this with Gren Maju is crazy. Triple Super Poly. If you guys read the feature matches, let me tell you, he had a lot of feature matches. Like, I actually looked it up before I made this video. He had a top 8 feature match, a top 4 feature match, the finals. Like, he had so many, at a top 32. He was featured so many times. Like, if you guys want to learn about this deck, literally go and read those feature matches. Like, you will learn everything about that. It's so crazy. And then the 2 trade-in as just added draw power, because if you look at the main deck, he's maining, I'd say 6, 9, like 12 level 8. So yeah, trade-in's crazy. I'm actually surprised he didn't play 3 copies, but I get it. He kept the deck at 41. I mean, this is just so crazy. This deck looks amazing. So yeah, so that was the main deck. Side deck, we've got triple Gamma Seal, triple Nibiru, triple Shared Ride. Now this card is interesting. So what's so crazy about this card is originally this card was always used against Sky Striker, but the fact that you can also use this against Lunalight Orcus, since they search the deck a lot, they do a lot of things. This card is nuts. You get so much advantage. If you read about it in his feature matches, he resolves this against the Lunalight Orcus in the finals, and I mean, it's just like a blowout. Like, you get so much advantage, and in a deck that just wants to keep accumulating a big hand for dangers is just so ridiculous, because then you literally reveal your dangers, and then you have a higher chance of it not getting sniped. So it's crazy. 3 copies of Twin Twisters, and yes, he did play 3 copies of Danger Zone. I don't remember if we've ever seen this card like in a competitive deck. For those of you that don't know, you draw 3 cards and discard 2 cards, including at least 1 danger card, or if you have no danger cards in your hand, show your entire hand and shuffle it into the deck. You can only use activate the effect once per turn. So basically, this is just like a ridiculous draw card. Unless you draw and discard, it's like Graceful Charity. And what's so crazy about this is that all the dangers triggers, so you guys already know. And I guess this card is for like slower grind games, and also if you're forced to go first, this just helps you, you know, during the game just get a bunch of advantage. And the fact that it's a trap is you can use this and you can discard cards like Bigfoot and cards like Thunderbird to disrupt your opponent, because you can pop a back row with this and pop a face-up card with this. So that's pretty crazy. That was for the side deck. And then for the extra deck, he's got the Chimera Brothers, he's got the Fortress Dragon and the Mega Fleet. It would not be a good day to play against Cyber Dragon Orcus. You just literally just contact them out and then just OTK them. So that's it. Super Poly targets, he's got the 1 Violet Chimera, that's for Solomon Grade, and the 2 Starving Venom, those are for the dark decks. Having a second one I think is really good, because it can come up multiple times, being able to just make these just to clear the board. And not only that, but you can also OTK with this card. You can see in one of his feature matches, he Super Polys during the battle phase and just kills his opponent right there, so it's pretty crazy. The 1 Dingirsu, because you're able to make it with your level 8s that you have. The 1 copy of number 38 and the number 68, Hope Harbinger and Sanafon. So both these cards are nuts. Just being able to make this to protect the fortress, or being able to make this to just blow out decks that need to special summon from the graveyard. It's crazy. Plus this card gets huge. So very, very good meta call. Plus the fact that, again, you have all these level 8s in the deck. These cards are actually quite easy to make. The 1 BLS Link, I absolutely love this card. This card is really hard for decks like Sky Striker and Altergeist to out. 1 Boral Sword, because you can make it so easily and just kill your opponent. And then he played all the Nightmares. He's got the Cerebus, the Mermaid, the Phoenix, the Unicorn, and he rounds it out with, of course, one of my favorites in danger decks, the Wee Witch's Apprentice. This makes all your dangers like even bigger, and you just really OTK your opponent at that point with this card. So yeah, so that was it for the main side and extras. So reasons why I feel this deck won. Number 1, I don't think anyone was prepared for this. Now, I say that loosely because, okay, yes, we do know that the Gren Maju strategy has been around. Again, it took 2nd place at YCS Portland. It has popped up at multiple regionals so far, but I don't think they were ready for this version. When I say this version, I say a version that incorporates a lot more dangers. Not only a lot more dangers, it plays cards like Response Team. Main decking Hey Trunade is just so crazy to me, because you never know what kind of decks you're going to play against, and the fact that you just sweep away the whole board is ridiculous. Like, if your opponent doesn't flip their floodgates, you literally just go, hey, Trunade, you know, it's just nuts. You force out them to flip their floodgates, you force out negations, you use so many things, and I think a lot of players just weren't prepared for that. I think that's just amazing that he played this card in the main deck. I think a lot of people were just thrown off by this, and like I said, when you can play things like this, you can just completely just blow your opponent out. Another reason why I feel this deck did so well is, again, this is a deck that it does do its best going second. Going second, its ability to just, you know, just overwhelm the opponent with dangers, being able to overwhelm them with the Giant Gray Maju if they resolve multiple desires or Gizmek or whatever is amazing. The fact that I've even read that this deck sometimes, if it's forced to go first, I know that I've literally read that sometimes they'll pass. But what's so crazy is if you don't kill them, if you don't set up a board or you don't do anything, you literally just get blown out by all these dangers because of how big their hand gets and how much advantage they get. So I think that's pretty crazy. Again, I would also say one of the main reasons, as with every one of these videos, is definitely the pilot. Shout out to David Mendoza again, because you have to know what you're doing to pilot a deck like this. All these dangers, everything like that. He was even saying that he didn't even win a lot of his games with Gren Maju. He actually won maybe half his games, because while this card is really cool in the deck, it is actually not the main win con of the deck. If you look at this deck, the way you basically just overwhelm your opponent is with the dangers, is with Gizmek, is with all these big bodies you put on the board, and you just completely just overwhelm your opponent, knock out all their little monsters, and you just OTK them. You have cards like Super Poly again to facilitate that, especially if you're playing against decks like Orcus, decks like Thunder Dragon. You just break their whole board and then you just start going forward and you just win from there. I think this deck is so crazy, and I think the fact that, you know, we keep seeing innovation in the Gren Maju strategy, because we've seen, you know, the Golden Castle of Strongburg that almost won Portland. We've seen the stun build that mains hand traps. We've seen the build that, you know, does all these different things. But what I've noticed about this deck is that this deck literally just OTKs. It literally just OTKs the opponent. Or if they're forced to go first, again, you can end on cards like number 38. You can end on cards like number 68 if you know the matchup. You can end on so many cool things. You know, you can have this card. You know, I think this card is actually really cool too. Like I talked about, like you're giving yourself better discard fodder for your dangers, and you're getting advantage out of that, and I think that's huge. And again, when you're forced to go first, if you have a Super Poly, you can just break a board mid-combo and they just lose right there. So I think it's pretty crazy. But yeah, overall, I think the deck is nuts. Huge fan of this deck. I think it's so crazy that this is the deck that won YCS Niagara Falls. It was either this or it was going to be Lunalight Orcus, and we literally would have had a repeat video of why Lunalight Orcus won Niagara Falls, and at that point it would have been, why didn't I just make one video of why it won both YCSs? But this time Gren Maju Danger deck came out on top, and I think it's amazing. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you guys think about this deck? Do you think this is a deck we're going to see going forward into YCS Dallas in a couple weeks? Do you think this is a strategy that a lot of players are going to adapt to? This is a strategy you definitely have to prepare for, because you never know these days. When your opponent wins the die roll, they tell you to go first. You have no idea. You're like, am I playing Mech Knight Invoked? Am I playing against Cyber Dragon? Am I playing against a Danger deck? You never really know, and I think that's what's really crazy about this format. But it's kind of cool because there's so many different decks that can do so many different things, and this is a strategy again that can do, you know, has come out of the woodworks and has just done actual work at YCSs and events all around. I think it's amazing. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I'd like to know yours in the comments below. What do you guys think about the deck? I think it's amazing. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.